One of the problems with recruiting for investment banking is not the knowledge or skills you acquire, but the access to talk with real investment bankers to put your best foot forward. Our sponsor, WSO Academy, can provide those connections with 60 head mentors who are finance professionals at top firms like Goldman, Centerview, and JP Morgan. Imagine being able to get on the phone within 24 hours with one of the Academy's 1,300 mentors right before a critical interview. Get on the waitlist for WSO Academy today by clicking the link in the show notes or by visiting wallstreetoasis.com/academy. All right. Welcome to Investment Banking Insights. Reporting live from Ithaca, New York. This is Alex Mason, your host. This is the podcast, the only podcast dedicated to helping you learn both the technical and non-technical aspects of investment banking. I'm so glad to be with you right now. Oh my goodness, especially more. I'm always glad to be with you, but I'm in my new studio right now. Just moved up from Houston, Texas to Ithaca, New York. Sitting here with a microphone on a beautiful new desk with some, my computer right here, and just enjoying this wonderful new space. I've been recording on the road now for, well over a month now, and it just feels so good to sit here in this new space talking to you and just ready to record some new episodes. So thank you for joining me. We've been going through a lot of different topics lately, specifically mergers and acquisitions is our focus right now, learning about all the basics of what goes into a merger and an acquisition. There's a lot of different aspects, but today I want to talk about the concept of how much a company pays for another company. Specifically, what happens when a company overpays? And so we're going to talk about that. So first of all, when a company buys another business, we know from studying in the past that there's this concept called goodwill. What is goodwill? Well, goodwill, as a quick reminder, gets created when a company buys another company above quote unquote fair market value. So when a company overpays, goodwill gets created. It gets increased by a large amount as a result of the transaction. And aside from goodwill itself, remember there are other intangible assets that could be included too, and those could also increase. So when a business overpays, you're going to see an increase in goodwill, potentially other intangibles. And the thing is, the definition of quote unquote overpaying for an asset might not be recognized right away. In fact, management may only recognize this overpayment years in the future. And think about the incentives here at play. If you're a management team running a business and you're doing an acquisition and you're paying a high price, you're going to justify that price all day long because, of course, you're taking that action. You want everyone else to be on board with you in terms of how much you think should be spent in acquiring another business. But there are a lot of factors at play here. We talked about some of them here on the show. There may be emotions involved. The company may just really, really want this key piece of technology, or they want a certain geographic footprint, or all sorts of reasons why a business may want to acquire another. But if they pay too high a price, they may have to write down that goodwill in the future. And so that recognition is what creates what we call impairment charges that negatively impact the net income of a business. And I'll give you a quick example. Tobacco giant Altria, you may have not heard of Altria before, but if you ever heard of like Marlboro cigarettes, or they have, I forget their exact brands, but they have so many different cigarette brands. It's basically them and just like one or two other companies that dominate the tobacco market anymore, at least here in the United States. They paid a huge amount for the startup called Juul back in 2018. They paid $12.8 billion for a 35% stake in this company. And this was significant for Altria because the market capitalization of Altria at the time, I don't know the exact numbers, but it was in the tens of billions of dollars. So this is a big acquisition for this size of a company. And just a big acquisition in general, really. Anytime you get into the billions, especially tens of billions, like it's definitely big. So at the time, vaping was really on the rise, and Altria's management saw it as a way to diversify into alternatives to cigarettes. Now, cigarettes are a dying market. They've been dying for a long time here in the United States. And so people have been turning to other forms of nicotine consumption, and vaping was one of those, and still is to a certain degree. But Juul was really this rocket ship investment for a little while, and Altria went and acquired them for a very high price. And long story short, I won't share all the details with you. It's kind of a big saga. But there were problems with the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, kind of back and forth legislation going down, and just slowing growth due to all of these regulatory hurdles that happened in the vaping market. So Altria management announced in 2019 they were going to take a $4.5 billion write down as a result. $4.5 billion write down. And I think, I don't know, they may have taken even more write downs since then, but this was huge for the company. They're basically saying to their shareholders, hey, shareholders, we're really sorry. We paid too much for this. That's effectively what they were doing. And the net income of the company got negatively impacted as a result. So that's just an example of when one company overpays for another. It might not get recognized right away, but when it does, it can really hit the bottom line. And it's basically a recognition of a loss to the shareholders' capital. So that's what happens when a company overpays. Remember, the goodwill is impacted, other intangibles are impacted if they exist, and you just get a write down of the company of the company's balance sheet effectively as a result. So that's what I got for you today here on Investment Banking Insights. And boy, I am so happy to talk to you sitting here in this studio. My goodness. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like recording on the road to a certain extent. There's a fun element to it, but there's just nothing like having your own space with your own headphones and your microphone all set up and ready for you. You just sit down and just press record and you just go. And as a podcaster, I love that. So I hope that you are enjoying this show. I'm excited now that I'm settled in Ithaca, New York, going to Cornell to get my MBA. What? I'm so thrilled. Classes are starting here in a few weeks. And yeah, so that's part of my journey. I'm sure I'll share more about my journey, recruiting journey, especially here in later episodes with you. But that's where I'm right now. And shout out to my Cornell folks listening to this, and all my other folks listening from other schools around the country and around the world. But yeah, I'm going to be sharing more about that journey later. And we're going to keep on going with this technical prep, y'all. We're going to keep on going. So we're going to be talking about mergers and acquisitions. We're through most of the basic level questions right now, but tune in next time for some more M&A. Thanks for listening, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.